Hey guys, Cameron here. So we are actually in pre-production for the second season of the Infinite Variety Show. We've been doing a lot of hardware and software testing, and the clip you're about to see is from a recent test stream that we did. We're going to talk a lot more about Season 2 very soon, but for now, just enjoy this video and make sure you leave your thoughts and opinions on the new look and the format in the comments down below. See ya. Alright guys, so we're going to do a little segment here. I wanted to watch an educational video with you all. We all play Overwatch. We all play Overwatch together. We have some wins. We have some losses.
A lot of losses.
Eddie's been
Mostly
playing for the
losses.
longest. I don't know who's been playing longer for me and Aaron, but we just made the transition over from Xbox to PC. So let me know if you feel the same, Aaron. But I feel like I'm playing a brand new game sometimes.
Yep,
Just
absolutely.
with what you can do with the characters and the key bindings and aiming with a mouse and stuff.
And overall understanding of the game.
Yeah.
I also will say, I feel like you guys are starting to pass me in skill level.
No.
I 100% think so.
No.
Don't you forget it.
Let's finish our placements for the season and see where we stand. But anyway, Evan is a longtime gamer, and he used to come over to my apartment and play Overwatch on my Xbox, and he would do better than me just because he's had a controller in his hand his whole life. I've not been a gamer. So now we all have it on PC, and we want to kind of, we want to grow together. We want to form a little team. We want to be that 4-stack that people see and they say, oh, that's a really good 4-stack. They're all on fire all the time, right? So let's educate ourselves. I had this video up here. I've seen it before. It's a 2019 competitive Overwatch guide from a channel. Somebody say the name of the channel. I can't see it.
Blizzard Guides.
Blizzard Guides. Okay,
Blizzard
yeah.
Guides.
Of course.
Yeah.
He puts out some of the best Overwatch content
For
on,
sure.
on YouTube, going on 1 million subs. So let's see what he has to say, and feel free to tell me to pause the video at any time so we can discuss something farther or whatever. But let's get into it. I fast forwarded through the video. We're gonna be watching intermediate and advanced tips only. Yes, Eddie.
I will say, I have not watched this. Based on everything I've played in Overwatch as well, I have watched zero like feedback or guides like this.
Screw you.
Nice.
100%. I'm not trying to
So it's all
boast.
natural talent.
I'm not trying to boast. It's
Okay.
just I'm trying to boast.
I think that
All
comes
right,
through
all
with
right.
your playstyle. Like, you have a lot of fun when you play.
I
And
try
you're
to.
fun to play with because of it.
Good. That's good.
All right, so let's get into it.
Yep.
Tell me to pause at any time.
Let's go.
So hello there and welcome to the intermediate section. Here I'm going to be talking about team fights, callouts,
This
positioning,
cracks me up.
and objective
What
strategies.
the heck?
If you play a bit of comp and you really want to go all in, or you're just starting to take it seriously now, you're in the right spot. I'm going to be having 4 parts to this section. Starting us off at part 1, we've got team fights. Team fights aren't an official Overwatch thing, but it's still something that everyone agrees on, just like the entire community agrees that Brigida is broken. Team fights are just fights where the entire 6-member team fights the entire other 6 members of the enemy team. If your entire team attacks the enemy team and has all teammates still standing, the objective is pretty much free to capture if you use all of your potential. Therefore,
God.
you just want to attack all together so that the full fighting
That is
power
the most
is
BM
in
thing I've ever seen in my
effect.
life, and I
Teamfights
love
have
it.
4 different
Absolutely.
specific phases. So
Yeah.
first off, there's the poking phase. This is the
Okay,
phase
I
where
heard.
the attacking team will move forward, try and gain a pick and not lose a member, while the defensive team protects the objective. The defensive team is usually sticking to one spot where it is easiest to defend, and the attacking team is following a path, usually through a choke, to the objective. It is way easier for defensive teams to hold chokes, so most teamfights start at or before the choke point. In the poke phase, you're not going to want to use all of your abilities. You're better off coming up with a plan of who you're attacking, how you're going to do it, where you're going, what ults you're going to be using, and all of that. Once your team has the full master plan trademark pending in effect, you're going to be jumping in and moving into the engagement phase.
Okay, I have
After the
something I
poke
want to talk
phase,
about.
you're
Okay.
Briefly there. This is something I heard earlier this week that made a lot of sense to me. He was talking about trading and not using too many of your cooldowns.
Yeah.
Something I heard earlier this week that made a whole lot of sense to me is the idea that you want to use your cooldowns to remove other cooldowns that take longer from your
Yeah.
opponents. I don't remember where I heard that. Probably another Blizzard Guides video, honestly. But it made a lot of sense to me because I'm a big chess player and everything is about points on the board, like what a fair trade would be.
Yeah.
And so the closest thing in Overwatch to that is cooldown time, where if you use like D.I.V.'s defense matrix, which cools down real quick, to stop something like even an ultimate, then that's huge because that's just a tempo gained.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think enough about tempo in terms of Overwatch.
Right. And it's another good point you bring up. I feel like at our level, which is silver and gold, we don't use defense matrix like we see pros using it. You know, something that I'm trying to do more when I play D.Va is just swallow Moira's damage orbs.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, and then you get into it like you can eat a majority of a Pharah ult. You can eat a Zarya ult. Just outright.
Reaper,
just bye-bye.
McCree's ult, even.
Yeah.
If you stand in front of teammates, you can jump in front of a teammate and use defense matrix.
Yeah.
And eat, like, at least for a portion of maybe squishy people that would die instantly.
Right.
I heard somebody say, was it Jane? Might not have been Jane. I heard somebody say that if D.Va didn't have defense matrix, she would never be picked.
Yep.
In the pro scene.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's so useful.
You know how I use her the most? I don't hear a lot of people talking about this either, but you use her as a direct Reinhardt counter. Just kind of stick in front of your team and you just defense matrix every fire strike that comes toward you guys. He'll never get an ult because Reinhardt, all of Ryan's ult charge comes from fire strike.
Okay.
And so you absorb 5-6 of those. Your team all has ults. His team all has ults. He has nothing. He's at 13%.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's huge. Yeah.
I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah. And as a Ryan main, it sucks ass.
Evan, you good?
Yeah, no, I'm just listening. I don't really have any input right now because you guys are obviously a lot further along than me, so I'm just listening.
Yeah,
right.
nothing wrong with that.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
You're in the engagement phase. This is where you're going to be dumping all of your E's, Q's, shifts, and mic spams and attempting to get huge picks on the enemy team like main tanks, supports, or carry DPS. Carry DPS literally meaning DPS that are performing well. It's not like how some games have a specific meaning to carry DPS. I literally just mean good DPS players. This is the part where most picks happen, but it only does last a few seconds. Once both teams have engaged, you begin the mid-fight. This is where the fight lasts the longest, where teams start to forget their plan and start doing their own thing. You're gonna have to be dealing as much damage as you can, focusing and trying to get your teammates to kill enemies that might have ult, get your ultimates out, and then in the end, just clean the floors with the enemy. Some heroes do way better the longer the team fight, and some do better the quicker, either because of abilities that require damage to be dealt, or the fact that they don't do well after they've used up all of their abilities, or just because they have specific abilities that let them get a big advantage in the fight the longer that the fight draws out. Examples would include Mercy resurrecting an ally, or Zarya getting more charge as the fight draws out, letting her do way more damage and gain way more ult. The mid-fight is where your team is most likely to be split up though, so you really gotta be on top of your game. Callouts are ideal here, so make sure that you stick by for the callouts so you have a little bit of understanding what you should be doing. So finally, after the winning team has clearly gained more picks, the cleanup phase begins. This is usually a 4v2 or a 3v1. There is still a chance to win the fight if you're the losing team though, but that requires that your brain go into overclocker mode and make some crazy smart plays, so don't count on it. Cleanup is its own phase though, just cause there is still a chance for staggered respawns, meaning that the first kill that your team got has respawned and returned to the fight, helping out his last few teammates that are alive. You need to clean up and completely kill the enemy team members in this phase, otherwise you cannot defend or capture the objective. A super important thing to note though is that the team that gets the first pick almost always wins the first fight, so capitalizing on that is a huge deal. If you get first pick, you're going to have a significant advantage. Next up at part number 2, we've got callouts. In Overwatch, there are 3 basic types of callouts.
Can we pause
First and
right here?
foremost, there are just target calls. This is basically calling out of position enemies or easy kills or just
I will say for us in particular, including myself very much so, I think for us to get better at the game as the 4 of us play, we need to get better at callouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to hear in a call out?
Specifics, like for instance, like if someone's low, like saying low is great, and then specifically saying maybe where they are in a quick succession, like something very fast, or being like, Cameron or Winston, anything specific, can you go take them out?
I like that, yeah.
Or like being a little bit more deliberate about it and being like, if you need healing, call it before you need it critically. I think just specifically in general, we need to just be better at being like, going for specific people. So like if someone wanted to go for just Tracer, be like, go for Tracer, and we all turn our attention on that one person.
Yes.
Because callouts are significant in this game.
Yeah, and I watch a lot of these YouTube videos and stuff, and I watch a lot of Overwatch streamers.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm reminded of every time that I watch is that my aim sucks.
Well, they're just really good.
I have pretty good aim.
But it's night and day when I watch somebody like that tracking shot on that Tracer we just saw a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I can't play a hero like McCree because so many of my shots fall off target. You know.
Well, we should also establish the fact this is their livelihood and this is what they do.
No,
for a
that
living.
yeah, that's true.
Yes.
That's true.
So we don't have
But
the time of day.
there are also things that I could do more proactively. You know, go and do drills in the practice range. I've seen people that there are these programs, I believe some of them are free, where they're aim practice, where you're just tracking a moving orb across your screen that's randomized,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just to get that aim down.
I've heard those aren't as helpful as just playing deathmatch.
Okay, well,
Personally,
We could
but
all just go into deathmatch, start out,
Yeah.
get ourselves fresh.
yeah,
There
do
you
a
go.
custom game. I had one more thing to say about what you were saying about
Yeah.
callouts.
That's all I was gonna say is just better callouts.
Oh, perfect.
Or I guess not better callouts, more
More.
frequently.
Yes, I agree completely. The games that I have won and felt really good about, like my best won games, are games where they have one or two particularly difficult characters, like difficult players, you know, like
yeah,
their Reapers tune us up, their Tracer, whatever, and I'm usually the first one to call it out, like, okay guys, if we want to win, all we have to do is take out it's their win condition.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear pros
that's
talk about win
that's the
conditions
word
all the
you
time.
use. You use that word all the time when we're playing together.
Yep.
Most of the
Okay,
time
guys,
it's a bastion.
Their win condition is the Doomfist. Let's
Most
get
of
him.
the time it's a stationary bastion that we just need to take
Yeah.
the shield down and get him out.
Oh,
Exactly.
Sombra.
And if you think,
I
or
hate
Sombra, it could be anybody.
Yeah.
But I think establish who that win condition is, and then your win condition is removing that win condition, especially defending. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I just think it's so simple, and for whatever reason, at our level, people don't communicate
Nope.
and don't listen to you communicate. Like, that's fine. You don't want to talk. That's fine. If you're shy, whatever the reason, if you have a baby sleeping next to you, chill. But I see that you have a headset on. I see that you are listening. Like, don't just ignore me. You know, like, try.
yeah.
But I don't know. That's just the frustrating at our levels. A lot of people treat it like run and gun kind of Call of Duty thing.
Well,
And so I always remind people a lot, like, dude, like, hey, it's a team game. You're playing it wrong.
Yeah.
at the end of the day, at the very least, there's 4 of us, so
Mhm.
we can do our best of our abilities
Yeah,
to try and make
totally.
that happen. You know?
Yeah, we can
Totally.
carry 2 noobs
So-
if we needed to.
Oh, 100%. I've done it before.
Hey!
No, not you.
Oh wow, yeah.
Not you guys. Oh my gosh.
All right, let's get back into it.
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
targets. This lets your team focus on them and kill them a lot faster and a lot easier. Examples would include Kill Zen, Zen 1, Zen out of position,
That's a
Focus
good one.
Zen, Zen feeding, or simply screaming Zen a lot into the mic. Following that though, we've got position callouts. Because Overwatch doesn't have a standard position callout guide, probably because of the amount of maps, most players just use relative positioning. Pretty much you just say stuff like Winston's top right, Winston's behind, Winston in our spawn, Winston on our side, Winston on point, or dear God, Winston's right on my head, somebody please help me. Also, I don't have much time to go into the specific per map callouts, so I'm just planning on releasing a separate guide for all position callouts sometime soon, so
Oh.
maybe consider getting subscribed so that you don't miss that. But
could watch
finally,
that.
there are
I
going
I
to
think
be
that
some
I've
shot
seen
calling
this
callouts
video.
that
If
don't
you guys
really
are down,
fit
we
into
totally
the
can.
first 2 types
Yeah.
and just fit into their own general shot calling
I wonder,
quote
Evan,
unquote
you have it in you?
section. Calling out to help or
What?
to peel allies
Maybe
just
not
means
tonight,
using
but-
your abilities
Yeah, I'd
to
like
kill
to
the
soon,
attacker
for
on
sure.
that ally, to heal that ally, or to use protection abilities on that ally, or maybe to just provide a distraction for that ally. So if somebody says help Anna or peel for Anna or I need peel or I need help or anything like that, that's usually what that means.
This is
Calling
big in
ults
my
or just saying
Lucio
no more
blood,
ults
too.
happens a lot, so listen up when somebody says that. Calling positions or 3-2-1s is another thing that happens a lot, so basically teams will say let's go left side or get ready, we're gonna go in 3-2-1, let's go. Also, alternatively, there is also the fallback and push up calls That usually just means follow your team, or I guess maybe your main tank, to that location. If you're the one calling this, you have to call spots that either force the enemy into uncomfortable positions or your team into ideal positions that favor your abilities. Don't just blindly call, hey, we should probably try left side now, or we'll probably try right side this time. You have to actually know where you're going and calling it and why you're calling it. Otherwise, just don't worry about it and let somebody else try and call it out. So speaking of positions, at part number 3, let's talk about each role's positioning. Positioning in Overwatch is easy once you understand it. If you're a tank, you should generally be the first thing that the enemy sees, and you gotta take the damage first. If you are a tank that is a dive tank, you want to play far back and then jump in during the engagement phase of the team fight and play deep after that. If you're a brawl tank, you probably want to play a bit more forward because of your lack of range and suppress the enemy as much as possible, or basically just be as annoying and in their face as you can realistically be. If you're a bunker tank, playing in an easy controllable area is ideal, and only playing aggressive in the cleanup phase is the norm. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it earlier, but it's just camping really hard in one corner. If you are a DPS player, you almost always want to control high ground or choke points. You should be either behind your tanks, in between your tanks or supports, or by your supports. If you're easily punishable because you don't move fast, play with your supports and on high ground. If you're mobile, you should play near your tanks, behind the enemy if you're actually good, or far back and then engaging quickly and playing deep. However, with that said, let's say that your support keeps getting killed by, I don't know, maybe their tracer. Then it's a good idea to maybe switch to something that can CC the tracer and kill her and play near your support so that your support doesn't die too much. As a DPS, you're more able to quickly get to people that are in need and deal damage to the attacker that's on that person that's in need, because your tanks still do have to protect your team from the general damage. So if there's ever a situation where your supports are dying way too quickly, or maybe your tank, you can switch to a DPS that will help out. I know that's typically not under the DPS kit, but it's something that you should do regardless, just because ranked games are unorganized and players don't know what the heck they're doing 90% of the time. Now, if you're playing a support, you should be playing back unless the enemy team has a flanker, in which case you should play closer to your DPS, like I mentioned. If the enemy has a sniper, you should also play your angles very carefully or extremely close to your tanks. If you're an off healer, you should 100% be more inclined to stick with the bulk of your team, or at least very close to your main healer. If you are a main healer though, you probably want to position near what can help you based on what is harassing you. So like I said, if there's a tracer on you, you probably want to play closer to your DPS, and if there's a sniper, you want to play closer to your tanks. And finally, the last part of this section, at number 4, we're going to be going into game mode strategies. So for Assault, you gotta be using strong old combos to quickly wipe the enemy on attack. If there's anyone that's struggling and not dying fast, you're gonna have a problem with the respawns. It's super annoying. You really have to manage the enemies that are trickling in. The defensive team builds ults slightly faster than the attacking team, so it's also important that you are careful with your ultimates and make sure that your ultimates aren't cancelled by the defending team's ultimates. If you're playing on defense, you gotta go for those huge protections on the enemy team's ultimates by paying attention to the amount of damage that they're healing and dealing. You then also got to use your ultimates to counteract the enemy's ultimates. And then on top of that, you just need to get massive picks early in the fight so that your team doesn't get attacked with full force. If you get a teammate picked early on, you're probably going to lose the objective there. So definitely just don't do that. Don't die. Don't die early. But for the payload on attack, you need to stagger your ultimate so that each time the defensive team tries to retake the objective, you use an ultimate or two so that they don't have the opportunity to actually win the game. Losing friends isn't as bad on Assault, but you still have to push up a lot and make sure that the stuff in front of the payload isn't super dangerous. If you're on defense, you don't want the enemy team to control anything in front of the cart, so you want to wipe the enemy really cleanly and carefully at a spot that is really easy to hold, like a corner or a choke point, and then use that choke point or corner to your advantage. It makes it really hard on the attacking dudes to actually get anywhere with the cart, so just keep that in mind. Always hold a corner once you have control of the objective. For control, finally, if you have control of the objective, winning fights with 1 or 2 ults is what you should be doing, controlling the part of the map where your team holds best. So for example, if your team has range, having your tanks either play up or behind and having your range damage dealer safe is the smartest thing to do. If you've got a dive comp, you want to play back and engage on the attacking team whenever they try and retake the point. If you're a bad player and you don't have control of the objective, you want to use your ults quickly to wipe the enemy team, a lot like when you play attack on Assault, except you want to be careful not to use all your ults, since you'll need a few to defend the point after. Also, I was just kidding about being bad. You probably will use the point a lot. I needed something to spice up the voiceover so you don't fall asleep. But now we've blasted through the intermediate section, let's slide on down to the advanced concepts. congratulations.
These are the ones
you made
for
it
us.
to the advanced
you know.
section.
Yeah.
Here, I'm covering
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
didn't
stuff
need-
that you
hear
should
any of that
have
other
some
stuff at
exposure
all.
to just because you've played comp consistently. But
Oh
I'm
my
also
God.
explaining it so that you don't have to spend your time picking up
That
bits
was
and pieces
uncomfortable.
here and there from
Right?
random streams or random ranked games. It's stuff that's
Meant to be
crucial
that
to ranking
meme.
up and getting a
Don't
lot
worry.
better. So there's a chance
Wall
that you
ride
probably
tour
know a
can't
bit
hurt
about
you.
these, but I'm going further in depth and more comprehensive than most of the things that you've probably heard. I'm going to cover ult economy,
Oh.
creating space, and
Fuck
counter
Torb
picking.
too. Just fuck DPS.
So at part number 1, ultimate economy just means the amount of ult charge that your team has. Controlling the economy means using specific ultimates to stop enemy ultimates, using your ultimates to gain ultimate charge for your friends, or just using ultimates in some order so that you don't waste all of your ultimates in one go like a noob. This means that you actually have to plug in your mic to communicate if you have ult, how close you or your enemy is to ult, and the order that you're going to be using your ults. Now, it's important to know that there are 3 types
it's
of
ult
ultimates
Torb.
and their uses specifically for the ultimate economy. First off, you've got the damage dealing or kill confirming ultimates, which only get kills, and it's basically your Call of Duty close your brain and frag out stuff. You're not actually increasing the amount of ultimate charge your teammates have. As a matter of fact, you're actually taking away, but it's still good because you're only using it to secure or defend an objective. Then on top of that, there are the buffing / defensive ultimates, which provide protection or allow allies to do more damage. These are basically your make everything strong abilities. They're almost always all support abilities, so stuff like Ana's Nano Boost or Zenyatta's Transcendence. These ultimates are not only for keeping teammates alive, but they're also for giving allies ways to deal more damage and get more ultimate charge. So for
Nice.
example, nano boosting a high charge Zarya gives her way more ult charge because she goes crazy with the amount of damage that she can do. She does more damage and she gets more ult charge. Similarly, if you use defensive ultimates like Transcendence or Lucio's Beat, it allows your team to go in deeper and get more ult charge. And finally, there are also those area of denial or area of effect ultimates that alone don't do very much, but combined with other ultimates or abilities can be super crazy good. Notable and very obvious examples include Reinhardt's Earth Shatter, Zarya's Graviton Surge, and
Nice.
Sombra's EMP. These ultimates can either be used to confirm kills if comboed well, defend objectives, or just give teammates ult charge. So a great example of good ult economy and management would be a Zarya grabbing 2 or 3 enemies, letting a Reinhardt steal play of the game and get enough ult charge to get his shatter, and then using his shatter next fight to allow
Damn.
Genji to dash through and pick up ult charge, which means that you use these ultimates to provide allies with a boost in ult economy. Basically, you're chaining ultimates.
Oh.
On top of that, there are also ways of using defensive ultimates, so Lucio's
You
and
literally
Zenyatta's,
got 2.5
to
ults
counter
so
enemy
fast.
ultimates. So let's say if your team is graved, using Transcendence can prevent the enemy Genji's Dragon Blade to deal damage to your teammates, effectively nullifying the value of both Graviton and Dragon Blade of the enemy team. You want to use ultimates in such a way that it basically cancels out enemy ultimates, gets kills, or provides your team with ultimates. Using these in tandem based on what kind of status your ultimates are out is ideal. So for a quick example, let's say that you
Oh
have
my
all 6 ultimates,
gosh.
you're probably not going to want to use ultimates to provide your teammates with ultimates, and rather you're just going to use them to get quick team wipes and win fights. However, you need to make sure that you don't waste all of your ultimates in one go. It's paying attention to how your ult status is doing across all of your teammates and using ultimates
Nice.
based on that really truly
No,
wins
thank
games.
you.
So next up at part number 2, we're going to go over creating space. Creating space is a really weird thing. Basically, creating space is just a concept that is crucial to tanks but still also applies to DPS or supports. What creating space means is it's just forcing the enemy back through the use of abilities such as Deadeye, deflecting or diving as Winston, or shielding and walking forward as Ryan, etc. If you're forcing the enemy backwards, you're going to be opening up angles for your DPS or areas for your supports to be in so that your DPS can miss more shots without dying. Creating space is easier whenever you have an advantage, so like if the enemy Ana needs to heal their Genji because your McCree landed a headshot on him, then you can play aggressive as Ryan onto the enemy Ryan since the Ana's attention is away, and then the Reinhardt with less heals, aka the about to lose enemy Ryan, will lose health quicker, forcing him backward, opening up space for your McCree to not die under 3 seconds. You can do this from any role, but knowing when space is opened up and when you can open up space is super important for success on any role. It comes down to recognizing where the resources of the enemy team is going so that you can
Oh my
abuse the
gosh,
fact
he's gonna
when
survive
resources are
this.
taken away from an enemy.
100%.
All
and then
thanks
you
to
can
that
focus them
Zarya,
or put
100%
pressure on them
because
so
of the
that they have
Zarya.
to back up
Zarya,
and
no,
eventually
no.
Now
everything
he's
from the
nanoed.
enemy team
Power
backs up.
team.
Because
Power
generally
team.
when one person backs
Ryan,
up, everyone else backs
Zarya,
up.
Ana, Lucio. That's all you
So
need.
finally, at part number 3, at the last part of the video, counter picking. Overwatch is heavily centered around the idea of counterpicking, so knowing what types of heroes counter each other is ideal. Unfortunately, I cannot get into the specifics because I put way too much into this video.
Wow.
But basically, let's go with the
That was
obvious
beautiful.
example that pretty much
That was
everybody that's
beautiful.
played a bit of Overwatch has known.
If I saw someone do
now.
that to me,
So,
I would be
for example, if you're playing
wouldn't be
Zen,
mad.
Yeah, no. What? Are we talking too much?
Did they sleep somebody, hop in the spawn, switch to Widow,
To one-shot them.
and then one-shotted them,
and then switch
and
back
then
to
switch
Ana.
back to Ana?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Genius.
Yeah, not a great actual play if you think about it, because you're just losing ult charge.
But if you're good enough, it doesn't even matter.
Right, exactly.
the
And
heck?
if it's like their power player,
That was
Well,
hilarious.
and you also have to think of the fact that it's their last go. They're on the last push.
yes,
So-
right, yeah. So that was a very situational thing, but it was dope.
Zenyatta, and you're getting repeatedly killed by the enemy Tracer, which is an obvious counter. Tracer counters Zenyatta. Then switching to Brigitte to counter the Tracer is a super smart move. You absolutely need to really do this way more than you think you should, because it really makes games way easier. Pick up a few heroes that are all counters to
more
each
fun.
other. So, for example, I'm just oddballing one out. We could say Winston, Reaper, and Widowmaker. Reaper counters Winston, Winston counters Widowmaker, and Widowmaker somewhat counters Reaper. By playing Reaper against a Winston, you know what kind of things Winstons are going to be doing, which in turn teaches you what Winston will do against a Widowmaker, and you can just kind of synergize all of that information that you're learning in a smart, super intelligent way so that you learn the counters. And yeah, it's a really bad example, I know, but you kind of get what
Ow.
I'm saying, I hope. Though I don't know why people don't do it more. It's literally
Look,
3
he
SR
even
that
knows.
they're
He
just too
even
lazy
knows.
to pick up. And also a really quick
That was
thing, take
gross.
into account that on Assault, the defensive team spawn is way further back than the attacking team spawn, so you can actually pick easily counterable heroes on the first point and do well, since the enemy team probably won't have much time to switch your counter. So for example, playing a Pharah is a good option on certain 2CP maps on first point, since the enemy team might not have hit scan and might not have time to switch. Though this doesn't always work, so your mileage may vary, but just keep that in mind, it can save your games at times. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I spent way too much time on this video, and I spent a lot of time on it, so I really do hope that you enjoyed it and that I didn't miss anything. If
I
I
did.
did, feel free to
Blizzard
let anybody in
guides.
the comments below know, and I'll make sure
Excellent
to heart
video.
your comment
Blizzard
and provide
guides.
feedback
Dude, his
on it.
videos
And
are
just
so
also let me
dope.
know what you thought about this video.
I
in the
love
comments
his
if it helped.
videos.
Drop a like on this
What I
video.
don't
If you want to see more
love,
tips and
or what I don't get, is his sense of humor. I don't want to shit on him. I love these videos. But like his dry jokes that he makes always just land so flat for me.
I think that's the point. I don't think there's supposed to be a focus of attention on it.
What
I think
jokes?
it's just
Yes.
I think it's time
exactly.
filler. If anything, I think it's just to fill time.
Yeah, and like he said, just to kind of like change things up. Yeah. Yeah, I guess he knows what he's doing. He's making way more money than I am doing it.
Well, did you guys learn anything?
I learned a lot. Actually.
I learned a lot.
but a lot of it I feel like I knew a decent.
I was under the impression from Reddit posts that I'd seen in the past that said the reason you're not climbing is because you're flexing too much. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. But maybe I'm incorrect there. Especially at our level, like someone's going to switch to Reaper if you're doing a good whatever counters Reaper. Like anybody can play Reaper.
I love Reaper.
I've been playing him more the last couple days, and
He's so fun.
I will say hopping in immediately, it didn't jive.
They put surprising them. He can wipe out a whole team if he's 30
There's been-
seconds later than everybody else.
I think what happens that it can be a problem is you can roll someone on the first game, and then if you come back as Reaper, sometimes I've noticed they'll like counter you.
Ooh, same thing with
Yeah.
Winston.
And
Yeah,
if you stay on it, screwed.
I'll play a killer Winston for about half of any game, and then somebody will switch to Bastion because again, Bastion's an easy pick. And I'm SOL. I gotta switch off to, and then what do you switch off to counter Bastion and also tank? Nothing. Diva. Oh shit, Diva. Oh.
Diva, and sometimes if your team is providing enough strain on focusing attention on them more, you can, if like say there's an Orisa, you get down the shield, you have to be good enough to hook Bastion out,
Yes.
because that's the only way you can get him out of his stationary form,
Mhm.
besides like maybe doing
Hack.
the Reinhardt push
Sombra.
or
Yeah.
Sombra, but I'm just being specifically
you're
speaking
right.
tank.
Yeah, Roadhog's a great counter, but you
'Cause it
have to have
stops
another
him.
main tank.
It stops
Yeah,
him.
yeah, you have to be able to get in.
You literally pull him out of his stationary form, and you have you have a good amount of time before you hook him towards you to know that
Especially
he
if you
won't be able to
step
do
back.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
see-
because you take him out of that form,
Can he
and
heal
you
while
take
you
him.
hook him?
Can he? Yeah,
Yeah, okay, that'd be the only issue, but
yeah. But you can still one shot Bastion at any point if you hook him. Well, not one shot, like one combo him.
Um, it's funny watching like streamers and pro players how they can solo queue
Mm-hmm.
into a GM level game, and everything they're talking about, everybody else gets, right? So where us, maybe I'm just speaking personally, but I feel like that I'm held back by mechanical skill level, and that when we're playing in like silver and gold, as good as our callouts could be, sometimes the team is not, everybody's not on the same page as far as what the callouts mean and what to do in the situations. Like you have, a DPS Moira just wrecking, or you have attack Torbjorns or attack Bastions just get murdered time and time again. So, and also it's a big thing down where we play is if you get like 2 people in your match on voice and quick play,
Mm-hmm.
like save the date. It's a miracle.
yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, well, when you watch these higher level people play, everybody's on mic.
Yep.
Communication is so key.
Well, I want to challenge you on something, Cameron.
Okay.
I don't think that your bottleneck is mechanical skill. Like, obviously, none of us are great with mechanical skill because we're all older players now, especially you and me, like learning at 25 and older. Like that's a challenge just mechanically. But I think that if you slow down your shots and realize that if you take longer to line up your shots, you're saving time than taking even 2 shots and only hitting 1. So take it a bit slower, and then that becomes positioning. And then I think that that'll improve it. I think if you give yourself the chance to hit shots, like if you were to pull up target practice right now, you'd be hitting these shots all over. But it's because the pressure is low and because you have more time to react. So get yourself in a place where you can allow yourself more reaction time.
All right.
Well, I feel like sometimes it's the equivalence of if we have 2 teammates that are terrible, we have to do that much better.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had games where I've literally, like, I'm not trying to be like, I've carried you, but I've literally carried solo games by
I've seen it.
myself.
Absolutely. You've
I've seen
carried
it.
games with us.
I've done it, and it's possible, but it's
Mhm.
because I'm like, I realize that this person's not going to switch. They're not going to do anything about it.
Yep.
Either I need to play on my best champion, or I need to play on a champion that I know based on what we have meta-wise, I guess you could say, who's
Mhm.
picked what, and do the best I can.
Yes.
And try really damn hard, even if I can't call out or do anything to, like, to help them do better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have to do better.
Because here's the
Right.
question, guys. What should Evan's next character be to learn?
He's doing pretty good on Moira. I liked his Moira.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what's the next one?
Evan-
He's got a solid soldier. He's got a solid Moira.
Mm-hmm.
He's been working on Orisa and Roadhog. Where should we take him next?
I think.
Oh, I think he would be a real bitch of a diva.
Based on
I've
Evan's
never tried that
based on Evan's play,
Yeah.
he would also, I think, be really good on Ashe.
Yes.
I think his Ashe would be really good.
His Ash would be great.
I haven't tried it.
Any positioning heavy character, I think Evan would kill.
I honestly think you'd be good at Ana too, because
Mhm.
the main thing that Evan needs to focus on right now is, because we know that he's good on Soldier, is characters, for one, that can be aggressive, or the flip side of it, that are mechanically made to be all about aim. So Ana's all about aim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's kind of fallen into the hit scan.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And
I,
from
and
the
I think
start,
you'd be
so-
good at just focus on characters that are about aim. Don't focus on characters that you think that might fit into whatever meta that we're playing. Just play what you want. Play characters based on aim or aggression. Yeah.
yeah, I
Play
agree.
play to your skills,
Okay.
not based on what people want you to play.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also,
Like-
have fun. It's a video game.
Like
Yeah.
Torbjorn, I don't see it as a character that you would play.
No.
I didn't
No.
like it. I didn't enjoy that. I tried him a
Yeah.
little bit.
Sounds
I
like a
did not
snooze
enjoy that.
fest.
And
Sure.
Torbjorn is very situational. It's based on defense or attack. Attack Torbjorn is kind of like hit or miss. Defensive Torbjorn is a very big thing, and control based. So just focus on characters that you think would hone in on your skills.
Yeah.
That's the
All right,
best way to do
guys.
it.
Well, that's gonna round it out for us. It's been good. I learned some stuff. So we'll see each other on Overwatch, and we'll see you in the next video. Woo! Bye bye.
Thanks for tuning in.